spot right up on the hill.
Come on, kids. Up the hill? This thing's getting heavy.
There, that wasn't so bad, was it?
Nah, good way to build up an appetite. Let's eat.
Hey, Kevin, I hear there's a new science fiction movie downtown. You want to see it?
Sure. I heard all about it from Tommy. He saw it Saturday. He said it was good, but I guess he had a pretty hard time getting in.
What do you mean?
Well, he got there early because he knew there'd be a long line. He got a good spot near the front. There were only 2 people ahead of him. Then these 2 kids came up who knew the girl in front of Tommy. She let them into line.
Oh, so what? It was only 2 people.
Well, that's what he thought at first. He figured it wouldn't make that much difference, but that was only the beginning. Just as the line was starting to go in, a lady and a little girl came up and saw how long the line was. Well, before anyone knew what was happening, they slipped right inside. He was pretty mad by now.
I would be too, if I came early to get a good spot and they came late and cut it in front of me.
Sometimes people only think of themselves.
Well, believe it or not, that wasn't the last of it. A couple of older kids came along and pushed their way in, too. You know, at first I thought cutting in line was wrong just because it wasn't a nice thing to do. But if a lot of people do it, they're really cheating you out of a good seat.
And can you imagine what would happen if everyone did that? People would be pushing each other around, and no one could keep anything organized.
It's really just selfishness, caring only about yourself and what you want instead of trying to get along with other people and doing what's right.
Wait, you haven't heard the rest of it. He finally got inside, got some popcorn, and found a pretty good seat. Then, just as the movie began, this kid on one side of Tommy started yelling to someone on the other side.
Over here. I didn't see it here.
Then, they just kept talking and laughing, like the movie wasn't even going on. Tommy couldn't hear a thing.
There are always kids like that in the movies. They're really a pain.
You mean you've never talked too loud in the movies?
I don't shout across the theater. Well, maybe now and then we fool around a little and get too loud.
You know, the people who paid to see the movie have a right to see and hear it. You're really taking someone's rights away when you're that noisy. And if you expect to get your rights, you've got to give everyone else theirs.
It's just being considerate. You know, it reminds me of the story Ann told me yesterday.
Oh, you mean about the toy Dennis borrowed from Mike?
What happened?
Oh, Mike got this toy parachute you throw up in the air or drop from places. It's pretty neat.
Hey, that looks great. Could I try? Sure, but you gotta keep clear of the trees, or it could get stuck. And stay away from the pond!
So Dennis threw it up a couple of times and was having a pretty good time. Then, all of a sudden, he ran right up to the edge of the pond and threw it into the air. He said it looked real neat coming down near the water.
Don't even tell me. It landed in the pond, right?
Yup, Mike was really mad because they couldn't get it out. But Mom, what does that have to do with fooling around in the movies?
Well, it's just another case of not being considerate of other people. Mike didn't have to lend Dennis his toy, but he did. And Dennis should have played by the rules Mike set down. But instead, he was only thinking of himself and his fun, and Mike's toy got lost.
People's things are important to them. You should remember that when you borrow something.
Mike isn't too happy with Dennis these days, and I sure wouldn't lend him anything of mine.
Well, that's something else about being selfish. People start to see that you don't care about them, and that's not a good way to keep friends.
You know, it's really the same thing when you're mean to someone.
How's that the same?
Because you're not thinking of the other person's feelings, or what you'd feel like if someone did the same thing to you.
That's just what happened the other day at Jeff's house. We were playing Frisbee when his little brother Jimmy came along.
Hey, Jeff, can I play too?
Get lost, will ya? You know you can't throw it right. You'll just mess up our game.
Well, little kids really can mess up a game.
But Kevin, you were a little kid once. Put yourself in Jimmy's shoes. Imagine how he felt.
Yeah, I guess it was pretty rotten. Jeff was just thinking about himself and his fun. Even if he didn't want Jimmy to play, he could have explained it to him instead of being mean.
Right. Jeff really hurt Jimmy and made him feel terrible. Nobody wants to be treated like that. Life would be pretty miserable if everybody acted that way.
You know, Karen told me about something that happened to her the other day. She was moping around because her dog had run away. Well, Julie came riding along on her bike, and, you know, they haven't been getting along too well lately.
What's wrong with you?
Oh, hi, Julie. I feel just awful. Skipper's been gone for 3 days.
Skipper ran away. That's terrific. That dog's been chasing me for years. I hope he never comes back.
That's all it took to set Karen off. She started to cry. I can't believe Julie was that mean to her.
Now that's really not caring about someone else's feelings. I mean, we all know what it's like to feel sad, and Julie knew how Karen felt, but she just made it worse. How could she do it?
Did you say Julie and Karen hadn't been getting along?
Yeah,
Well, sometimes people are mean because they think it's a good way to get even. But deep down, people know it's terrible to be mean. They just end up feeling ashamed of themselves.
Well, with all this talk about other people's feelings, how come nobody's been thinking of mine? I'd like some dessert.
Oh, okay, Anne. But you know, it really is something to think about. When you only think of yourself, you can be unfair to the people around you by being inconsiderate and mean. Just imagine what it would be like if everyone did that. People wouldn't be working together. We'd be fighting all the time. How would you feel if no one ever thought about your feelings?
I guess you're right. We're all a little selfish sometimes. Things would probably be a lot nicer if we thought more about other people's feelings.
they sure would. And by the way, Mom, these really are terrific cookies.